is Tarik Talk. Your host, Tarik Mendez, takes you on a journey with guests from all around the world. Broadcasting around the world. Around the world. This is Tarik Talk.
Guys, today we're on a new episode of Tarik Talk with Kat Ryals. Did I get that right, Kat?
Yes, you did.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm so excited to be here at Gallery 550. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I am an artist that is based in Brooklyn, New York. I'm also a curator. I also run an arts organization called PARADICE PALASE. I'm originally from the South. I grew up in Arkansas and spent a lot of time in South Louisiana. My whole family's from South Louisiana, so spent a lot of time running around on my grandparents' farm, swamplands.
So cool.
Yeah, so sometimes you might see some remnants of my background, childhood growing up, you know, little frogs and swamp creatures being inserted, little bits of fur and things like that that represent Southern, like thrifting and shopping. And I also spent a lot of time like going through junk and thrift stores as a kid. And I think that part of what is still inspiring me and my work to this day is being out in those experiences of being outside a lot and out in the country and rural areas. And I also grew up Catholic, so spending a lot of time in ornate Catholic churches, daydreaming, thinking about anything else. So all kind of comes together to make the stew that has set me on my path today.
I love that. And do you think, like, growing up being surrounded by nature and like having so much freedom, as you said, do you think that like impacted your work today?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think that there's this longing for that sort of peace and reconnection and just especially being here in New York City. I've been in New York for 13 years. So I think, just as we keep moving forward in time and the more that we have, we spend on our phones and looking at screens and all of that kind of thing, I think there's just like this longing for that reconnection and like a hope that we don't completely lose those things.
That's fabulous. And I noticed in your show currently you have 10 pieces, right? Mm-hmm. Were all these pieces made specific for the show?
Yes. Yeah. So I had actually started the series in 2021. And so I'd made 7 rugs previously, and then these 10 were completely brand new within the last 2 years for this show.
Oh, wow, that's fabulous. And would you mind sharing your Instagram and website so people that are listening right now, they can like follow through everything and get a visual?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is KitschWitch, which is KITSCH_witch. And then my website is just catryals.com.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And I have a question because looking at first I have to say the work, like for me, it brings like happiness. It seems like very organic, very chill. Mm-hmm. It's colorful. Is this printed on or is this painted?
So it's actually a print. So this process, I actually physically collect all of these materials. And then I collage them onto a wall or a board in my studio. So they're all one-to-one scale. Okay. So this collage process ends up being an ephemeral part of the process. So once they're completed, I photograph them. My background is photography. That's what I studied in college. And then I end up printing them, working, just with a consumer level printing company to have them dye sublimated onto velvet, and they get printed as rugs. So, I think that my background in photography is important to mention because when I came up here to go to school at Brooklyn College for grad school, I was starting to move away from doing just straight photography and really starting to get into a more interdisciplinary practice. And what I've been doing is still finding ways to incorporate my camera into the process. So I feel like more comfortable with describing myself as lens-based as part of that interdisciplinary practice, but not really like I'm a photographer. But the inspiration from these are coming from both historic rugs, looking at specifically European Savannah rugs that I came across in 2018 when I visited Versailles for the first time. And they were huge. They were just like spread across the floor, massive carpets, and they made me think of casino carpets. And so I started just thinking about banquet hall carpets, conference centers, casinos, and sort of marrying those aesthetics of indulgence and excess. And so that's kind of how we've gotten to these very loud maximalist prints here today. But what I'm doing is sort of playing with perception of value and really investigating how desire works. And so the materials that I'm using are largely found objects. They are things that have been discarded that I've gotten from Materials for the Arts. I get a ton of stuff from Materials for the Arts.
Shout out to them,
yeah, they're amazing, and they're just up the street. People give me things. I get things at thrift stores. So again, kind of connecting back to those early days where we didn't have Instagram, so we spent a lot of time just rummaging through junk stores. And I always like to also include things that are like organic or natural, but they're dead. So there's like little dead fish in here. So thinking about excess and indulgence, they kind of act like this like vanitas moment by having something dead that's like the ultimate form of low value, of like something we don't want. So yeah, taking these items that we kind of perceive as low value and then recasting them in these aesthetics of luxury, like these rugs that exemplify, peak opulence and status. So it kind of re-injects that value back into these items that would have otherwise been destined for the trash.
This is fabulous, and I have to say, I wasn't sure at first, but at first glance, especially this piece here, it gave me a visual Persian carpets. Because it's very symmetrical, it's very pattern. So looking at this from like somebody that doesn't understand much about art, because I love to like break it down and have the artist explain, because a lot of people, I think artists are genius, so a lot of people don't understand like how your brain works. So is this something like, do you glue everything down to like a canvas or a board, and then how does it work?
Yeah, so sometimes I'll just work on a wall. Bless the poor wall, because it gets just chewed up by staples and glue guns and pens, and the final piece I will just like peel back off. I've kept all of the remnants, and I've been slowly kind of going through things. Some of the items I'll be cutting up and making into scraps that I can donate back to Materials for the Arts, and then other things I'll use for other projects. But yes, normally I'll just build them straight onto a wall, or like for some of these smaller pieces I was able to just do them on boards, which made it a lot easier to like move them around and make them and be able to lay them like flat on a table. But yeah, so it ends up being a very straightforward process.
That's so fascinating. So you said you also work vertically, right?
Yeah. So for the big ones, I'll start like on the floor, like rolling out fabric, placing items, and starting to kind of figure out how it would work. And I'll also like then get tracing paper and put that, like mark out where I need the outline of the rug to be, because they do have to like line up with like the layout for this printing company and have like match the bleeds and everything like that. So I have to like mark that out, and I use the tracing paper to draw a design, and then I cut out all of those elements and we'll pin that to fabric and then cut out all the fabric pieces. So the base layers end up being fabric, and then I come in and do all of the details later on. And a lot of times through the process, because I want them to be flattened into a print, I'll take photos on my phone throughout the process of making it, so I can start to see what it's going to look like, because it's totally different than when you see it actually physically like on the wall. And then I can like sometimes I'll print stuff out on an office printer and use colored pencils to like be like, okay, what would it look like if I had like a blue line here? Or what would it like, I need something else in this corner, and I have, these 5 materials. Let me like do a quick little sketch and see what that would look like before I spend the time like actually like
Wow, that's so fascinating.
getting on there.
Do you have like an archive of all the original pieces?
Yeah, so I do. And I've been thinking more about how to, like I mentioned earlier, that desire is an important part of this. So that's one aspect of why I don't want to give you the real collage.
Yeah.
Like I could sew all these things together, mount them onto a board. But I like that they get flattened into photography because they look like real objects that you could reach out and touch, but they're not actually there. So it just pulls on this tension of desire. But for this show, something new is I started to save some of the items and then do this like memory-ware folk art process of making like a mosaic with the rod that it's hanging from. So you just get a little taste of the actual items that were in it without me having to give you the full finished piece.
That's so interesting. You know, one thing that I admire about New Orleans, especially artists, is like they have this like talent for like embroidery and details and beading that I think it's fascinating. So it's funny that you said it because I like picked up on it, as you said. That's really cool.
I come from a Cajun family, so it is interesting that, kind of a little bit later. I mean, I grew up going to like rural Mardi Gras, but I, a little bit later in life, actually got to see the Cajun Mardi Gras, which is very frightening to see for most people because it's just like rednecks dressed in, they like make these homemade masks and they're like these clown suit kind of things, and they're just running around in the countryside at like 6 a.m. trying to chase and catch a chicken. And it's you definitely look up the Curator de Mardi Gras if you want to go down a little rural side quest.
That's so fascinating. I didn't know. Wow. Cool.
So a little bit
how
of
do ideas come to you? Like, are you an artist that you like to work at nighttime or daytime? Like, do you have a preference?
I would say that I'm more of a like research-based artist. I tend to, so I don't have a full-time artist practice because I'm also running my organization. So I sort of create in a seasonal type of manner where there's like maybe a few times a year or a chunk of the year where I'm very productive and that's my time I've set aside to do it. So I try to like be doing some of the studio work in my head when I'm not able to be in my studio. And so with that, it's like reading nonfiction books, it'll be films, documentaries, or experiences. So like, that trip to Versailles, that was a research trip that I had planned. I wanted to see, previously I was making work that included like a lot of bones as part of the decorations. And again, I grew up Catholic, so I wanted to see these bone ossuaries in France and Germany and the Czech Republic, and had planned this whole road trip to go to all of these churches, and was talking to this art historian who wrote this book about, and he's a photographer too, that documented all these churches that have catacomb saints. So he was like helping me like chart my path, and so like going to places like that and seeing these kind of things and experiencing them firsthand and sort of digesting, and like sometimes like an instantaneous like aha moment will happen, like with the rugs. And kind of how I mentioned when I got to grad school, I was doing this like interdisciplinary practice. Everything sort of starts from like objects or an assemblage of objects for me, and then different processes will work their way in, whether it's photography and printmaking, or molding and casting, or building an installation, or being pretty straightforward with just like an assemblage sculpture. But yeah, in terms of like books, I'm reading a lot of like nonfiction, like books about material culture, cultural history, that sort of thing. That's kind of, I kind of need time to like marinate on things, and again, things sort of always kind of start from an object and go out from there.
And do you get like, when you get inspired, like a creative visual, does the idea in your mind turn out exactly how you create the final product? Or is it more
kind
like
of yes and no. I think once I get attached to an idea, I don't immediately do it. Like I'll spend a couple years like thinking about it and letting it like marinate. And I think it's always been like, I guess, a frustrating moment where I'm like, I just want to just go straight in there and like do this process and have the finished work. But I found that by not being afforded the time to be able to just do that, it actually makes the work better because I have so much time to like think about it And I often want to try new processes every time I do a new body of work, so that gives me time to like talk to other artists or do some research or some tests, and then whenever I get that time to actually make the project come to life, I feel much more confident about it. Like I'm like, this is the final form of what I wanted, and then I'll be glad. I'm glad I didn't do that 2 years ago, and I've got to this point now, and I'm doing it because it would have looked different, and I would have hated it.
That's amazing. So when you have the ideas, are you able to like, do you just let it incubate, or do you like sketch it, like a quick sketch or something?
They kind of live in my head, but I have like a list of like distinct bodies of work that I want to do. So this is kind of like my way of wrapping up this series with this exhibition, and so now I have 2 or 3 project ideas that I want to do next, but I have to just like pick which one, and they're definitely things that have been marinating in my brain for a couple of years now.
Your mind must be so fascinating. I love
ADHD, it's crazy.
Me too. What sign are you?
Gemini.
Are you Gemini? Oh, wow, okay.
What are you?
Scorpio. I thought you were Scorpio too. We're very similar. Yeah. All right, so the title for this show was Showroom Dynasty.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that?
So, honestly, that's a title that's been floating around for years too, so I don't know exactly the origin point, but I think it was just like, I was trying to think about both that historical reference and the contemporary reference. So thinking about, the places where busy carpets exist, these type of showrooms and banquet halls, and then the dynasty thing kind of relating to these palatial environments that had these ornate, luxurious rugs. So we kind of wanted the exhibition to speak to both of those sites. So, we fit a lot of work into a tight space, and we wanted it to intentionally feel full, like you would be in a showroom. So like having them, hanging them from these rods also relates to tapestries, which you might see if you're at the Met or, visiting a place like Versailles. And we wanted to have one on a pedestal so you could like see it actually flat and being functional as a rug, but then decided to put in this like flashy like Vegas underlighting that gives it, that like both that showroom kind of environment that's sleek, but also referencing Las Vegas. And Las Vegas definitely makes its way into my work, very much so in this project. So I was actually like thinking of Las Vegas as this like muse for a lot of the pieces and choices of like what I put into each rug, like the materials that I curated and color palettes, and so that's why you'll also see some of these like little nuggets here that were like
so
Bailey, our gallery director, also wrote this really fabulous insight in the press release of like these busy carpets being like a place where things will be hidden. Like if somebody drops a poker chip onto the floor, it just kind of gets swept up into the design. And so that's also kind of part of it, of like things that are being revealed and hidden. And I think, again, that sort of translates to this idea of wanting to flatten these into photographs and thinking about how we interact with screens and all of those kind of things in our daily lives.
Wow. Shout out to Bailey.
Yeah.
I do think adding the little nuggets, as you said, I think it makes like the exhibition very immersive.
Yeah.
When I first seen the work, when I first came in, I like didn't want to touch my phone and take pictures. I wanted to like get sucked into, because each of them almost feels like it's its own world. Yeah. And I really appreciate that. And I have to say, looking at all the artwork, how do you come up with all of the titles? It's very fascinating, like for each of the artworks.
So the titles will often have like, so because I'm kind of creating a bit of a narrative for each one, again, using Las Vegas iconography as this like starting point of like these sites of indulgence, like the buffet and like the spa, the tiki bar, the shopping center, the penthouse suite, all of that kind of thing. So I'm trying they are playing with, ideas of kitsch. This is about sort of luxury and kitsch coming together in these two opposite scales of value. That are colliding together. So I want the names to be a little bit punny or kind of silly, but also a little bit, like a little bit cheeky or wicked, I guess. I don't know what right word to insert there, but they're a little bit dark, like a little bit dark undertones sometimes. And sometimes I'll get them from like books that I'm reading that are about, topics of the topic or the idea of like fakeness, or I have a book that is about special effects in terms of, and it's relating to Las Vegas and historic Baroque eras. So sometimes, like in reading these types of like cultural historical books, I'll find little lines and stuff in there, or from watching like documentaries and things like that. Like some of the titles, I was like pulling little nuggets from this CNN documentary about Las Vegas.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And are you able to like you seem to have like a very creative, like genius-like level mind. Are you able to kind of like pull away from your artistic mind and enjoy life every day, or are you always like get inspired, always coming up with new ideas?
Oh, I definitely need to have like time and space away from this. I definitely, again, kind of going back to the ADHD thing, there's a lot going on. I don't know about creative genius or anything like that, but it's a lot happening in there. And I just also want to say to other artists that are like really in it with their practice, like just remember that when you need to take a break and pause and live your life, it's totally okay, and that we need to remember to have those moments. Yes. Because I definitely don't want to look back and just be like, I was just in my studio like my whole life in my dark little basement, and I want to be like outside sometimes with my dog. And I think the pauses are good. I think that allows for the ideas to come back too.
That was actually going to be my next goal. We're just in sync today. But I was going to ask you, like, do you have any advice for your younger self? If you looking back now, like artistic advice?
I don't know. It's hard to say, because I think that learning from your mistakes and experience is important to get you where you are. Mm-hmm. So I think if I tried to tell myself not to do certain things, that I wouldn't have learned and grown and developed into the place that I am now. But I mean, it takes a lot of work and dedication. And I think that's probably the main thing I would tell myself, is to be wary of burning yourself out and overworking yourself and saying yes to everything. And that can definitely be very hard to manage for all of us, of like just understanding how time works, and you can't say yes to everything.
Absolutely. Just jumping off topic a little bit, if you could own any artwork by any artist that you admire, who would it be?
If I could,
own any artwork?
Own any artwork? Ooh, probably either a Wangechi Mutu piece or a Nick Cave piece.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a specific piece in mind, but
that's so interesting. Nick Cave, he's a very, very cool artist too.
Yeah.
All right, and can you tell us a little bit about the PARADICE PALASE, please? That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, sure. So PARADICE PALASE was founded by myself and my co-founder Lauren Hirshfield in 2017. I actually did not know Lauren at all. She had curated my work into a pop-up exhibition, and at the opening we really hit it off. And I guess we're both kind of in these places of just having that urge to get out there and just do something yourself. And at the time, I was working in programming and museums. I was recently out of grad school, so I had 4 jobs working for an artist. I was doing gallery sitting, all the different things, and trying to make it work. And Lauren was also getting her feet wet with curating and doing different jobs and things as well. And it was also just coming off that time of when Trump first got elected, and the NEA was being threatened to be drained and all of that, and just 2 ambitious, bold, enthusiastic gals wanting to see change in the art world and being by God, we're gonna do it. So the first iteration of PARADICE PALASE, we started in the basement level of my apartment building in Bushwick, and it was a curatorial project, but we also wanted it to be not really a passive experience for people. We want a community to be involved in it, so we ran these crowdfund campaigns with every exhibition. So we would get a group of artists for each show and have a theme conversation we wanted to discuss with the work, and the artist would give us small items a t-shirt or a pen or maybe something small and handmade that was an addition, and those were like the rewards people could get from the crowdfund campaign. So it really like let people have a hand in the production of the actual exhibition. So when they came, it's not like you just like showed up to a show, it's like you were part of it. And it was also like sort of helping people to be able to collect on whatever level was possible for them, and we were able to make stipends for all the artists, so even if we didn't sell something, they still got a couple $100 for just like participating. So it kind of like then turned into a laboratory or a test kitchen of sorts, and as the years went by, we were trying to make like retail items with artists. We were doing a lot of like public workshops and programming, and eventually got a physical space, and we're running a more formal gallery out of the space, and we had studios. But now we've sort of like, it was just a lot. It was a lot of work for the two of us. Yes. So we've gotten to a place where we're like, we need to like scale it back and just like really stick to one thing and then grow out from there. And so what we've landed on is building this artist network and community, and it's really about connecting artists together through a mutually supportive network. And we do like professional development stuff with them. We do networking events and meetups, and we still do curatorial projects, but we try to do them more with like partners or other organizations, so that we're connecting our artists into these different audiences. And like, we're not like the opportunity, like we're helping you get the opportunity. So that's sort of where we're at now.
That's amazing. And if somebody's listening right now and they want to like possibly donate a space or donate, currency, are they able to do so?
Yeah, so we are fiscally sponsored, so we accept donations through Fractured Atlas, and you can find that information on our website, which is paradicepalace.com. Just know the C and the S are switched in the two words. We're DIY. And if you are interested in joining our artist network, you can also find that information on our website as well.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Can you share with us any current projects or future projects that people can check out?
Yeah. So I don't have anything in the New York area that's going to be coming up, but I am going to Las Vegas tomorrow because I have a 2-person show there with the city of Las Vegas at their Mayor's Gallery downtown. So that'll be opening on October 16th, and it will be up through January. So if anybody happens to go to Las Vegas and you go downtown, you can see the older rugs that I had previously made before this exhibition.
Oh, that's so fabulous. So these will be the rugs that you created when you first been to Versailles and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. Like the large rugs be stepped on, or is it just decor only?
Oh, no, yes. I'm intending for these to be, if you collect the rug, you can use them as a rug, and it can live in your house and be properly lived with. But we also show them hanging, just to, if you're weirded out by that, you can always like hang it on the wall, like a normal, 2D artwork. But yeah, I don't have an issue with people, like some of the exhibitions, I'll have them just like flat on the floor, and within the edition, I always have like an exhibition print that is just for being shown, and sort of functions as like my AP print. So that one's they're not as like precious, and I just like clean them after an exhibition. And then for the other rugs though, I only do a small edition. So they're just an edition of 3, and then the smaller ones are an edition of 5. So kind of again, like when we were talking about value and desire, and taking these objects and re-injecting them with value through these aesthetics and everything. I also am interested in playing with the aura of the artwork. So if it's an original piece, that is king in the art world, and so I thought it was interesting to then make them into a print edition. It makes them more accessible, which is something that's really important to me, and then also makes them actually functional as a rug. So those are like 2 things that the art world doesn't really appreciate as much.
Absolutely. And if somebody's interested in your work, but they want like a specific piece, are you able to do like a custom piece for them?
Oh, yes.
Can they reach out to you for that?
Yes. So I was actually an artist at the Museum of Arts and Design as a resident last year, and I had a lot of people coming in and asking me that question. So I hadn't thought about it before, and it was a really exciting thing to come up.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. I did see a difference between the smaller and the larger rugs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the larger rugs came first, and as I mentioned, I was kind of using Las Vegas as the starting point to curate the materials and build a narrative around. So I'm looking at these like sites of kind of iconography of Las Vegas, but thinking about just generally like where are places of American indulgence and excess. So yeah, again, like the steakhouse, the shopping center, the spa, et cetera, and then those are being married with these the formal aesthetics of these Savannah rugs, which were like very popular in 17th and 18th century Europe. But for the smaller rugs, I wanted to differentiate them just a little bit and kind of bring them up to speed with where what things that I'm currently thinking about. And so I started to look at arts and craft movement rugs, which made a little bit more sense for the smaller scale. It didn't have as much space to work with, using these like real physical objects. And they're a little bit more graphic and sometimes more minimal. So that was a better jumping off point from that historic era. And it's also still kind of in line with this European design movement. But the interesting thing about the arts and craft movement, William Morris was a big component to that process and era. And he was a utopian socialist. Like he thought that, handmade artworks and creativity and craft was what made people happy and really push back against things that were happening with industry and mass production and things like that. And so I was kind of just also thinking about this, how we're in a similar moment right now with like AI technology being this huge transformative moment in industry and culture, and how artists are dealing with that, and like thinking about how I'm making these things in a handmade way, but then I'm also playing with reproduction as well. So for these, his whole movement was about this hope of not having these big sweeping changes, and just like having this hope for society going in a creative direction. And I think about gambling also as being this form of hope, obviously, but like a very melancholic kind of hope of like, when you go to a casino, you're very not likely to win. But we are just like pulled to like keep chasing that desire and keep trying to attain something more. And so I think some of what's going on just like in culture and politically was just making me think about those two kind of themes that I've like, thinking about that historical reference point changing, and then also looking at a little bit a different sort of iconography from a similar place within American culture.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. I have a question. If you could do any like future project with no budget, do you have anything in mind that you could do, like whatever, like it could be an immense carpet?
Okay, nobody steal this idea, but my dream is to, thinking on the Vegas themes, is to have a nonprofit art casino.
Oh wow.
Like you like if you found like a failing casino in like Reno or Las Vegas and it just got totally taken over by artists, like a Meow Wolf kind of style thing, and then we had like all the money coming in would just go to more artists to just keep reinventing the place and building more installations and hosting wild theater shows and designing slot machines. I just think that would be really fun.
That's so genius. And just going back to the titles of your artwork, that's like me fascinated because they're so amazing. Would you mind just sharing a little bit, like perhaps your favorite one? Because I think they're really cool.
So one that I'm pretty proud of. Some of them I get from, again, like external sources, and some of them just come to me. I think they're funny. So this piece that's over on this wall, there's definitely an influence from the film Showgirls in this piece, and there's a documentary called You Don't Know Me that I really love revisiting, and just hearing these nerds talk about like what makes Showgirls so interesting to always come back to, and like they always argue if it's like a masterpiece or like the worst movie ever made. And I love that it can be these, again, two things that exist at the same time, of like bad taste and like, yes, amazing, like artwork.
Yeah.
So they're and also just thinking about like the themes of Versailles and like mirroring that's happening in the gallery for the exhibition design. In that movie, the director Verhoeven uses a lot of mirrors throughout the movie, and because it's about these two women who think that they're different, but they're actually the same person, is like what the narrative is. So they're in this shopping center in Caesar's Palace, and they're having lunch, and they cheers chips and talk about eating dog food in an unironic way. And it's just like a really bizarre moment in the film. But what the director does is he like switches them with the camera shot, and it's just like camera trickery that's kind of against the rules. And so it's just like thinking, I had that documentary on when I was like working on this piece, and so it made me think about having this like different, instead of it being perfectly symmetrical, I did these two like different sides that would mirror each other. Yeah. So it's kind of sort of related to like, I have like the purse, cut up purses and faux fur and bra straps and stuff I got from Materials for the Arts that related so much to that scene. So the title for that one is called Purina Gold, because it is about them eating dog food while chatting and having brunch and drinking champagne. Cool.
And when you're creating in the studio, are you always listening to like documentaries or music?
Yes, I typically am listening. I listen to a lot of DJ sets to kind of like keep up the energy, but I often will listen to documentaries, but not like super heavy, serious. It's kind of like I said, like the CNN, 4-part Las Vegas series, or even sometimes just like, I don't even call them documentaries, but like Vice, doing like the dark 90s and stuff like that. And and even with podcasts, I've been trying to listen to like books on tape and stuff like that, but whenever it's like very like political or like dense content, it actually will end up distracting me because I'm trying so hard to listen to I like keep like pausing and what I'm doing to like go back. So now I'm trying to like also just make the studio a little bit more of like a break from the real world too, and like listen to comedy podcasts. I love Las Culturistas. Yes. Keeps me going.
I love that. And how has the show been here for you?
It's been really wonderful. Bailey and Dan, who run the gallery, are incredible people and just wonderful supporters of emerging artists, and they've just done such a great job just taking care. I feel very well taken care of, and supported in the show has been really well received so far. We got a shout out in ArtNet for the top 12 shows to see this fall. And I'm just excited to continue to watch their gallery program grow and expand, and I'm glad to be here alongside them.
That's fabulous. Shout out to them. So thank you so much, Kat, for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Would you mind just sharing your Instagram and website one more time?
Yes. So my Instagram is KitschWitch, which is KITSCH _WITCH. Like, would I want to spell it yet? Yes. I'm trying really hard. And then my website is catryals.com, KATRYALS.com.
Fabulous. Been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To Tarik Talk. Follow Tarik Talk on all social media channels and check out the video interviews online.